Welcome to Swanzey Then and Now. I'm Jody Turner and this is Lee Dunham. And today's topic is going to be farms in Swanzey. So we have had a large farming community for a long time, not so much now. But if you look at Swanzey Center, I think is where we had the most farms, do you think, Lee? Or
in the original
well, that's
setup,
where, because it was settled in 1733.
Right.
And then by 1750s, we had about 1,000, 1,500 people here.
And most of your farms in the beginning were done in what they called the intervale, which is the flat land down by the rivers and stuff.
Yeah. And we also had a fort that was in Swanzey Center too.
Yeah, up on the top of the...
If you look at where the Carpenter home was.
Right, up behind that as
well.
well.
Yeah.
And supposedly there was also two more. But those are probably residences that they put walls around, and that was north and south of the one central one. So you had some place to go wherever you were. So.
Just in case, yeah.
Yep.
So there's several farms that we're going to be talking about today. Some of them that come to mind are the Holbrook Farm, the Perry Farm, Carpenter
Home, which was
Bardwell.
Farm.
If you guys remember right near Market Basket, that used to be the Bardwell Farm. Sad day when that was taken down, but it had to go. Very, very sadly.
Yeah.
And the Page Farm.
Page Farm.
Yeah. So these are some of the farms that we're going to be talking about today. But Lee, why don't you, start the conversation? I believe, what were these? These were Taylor?
Right. This is the Wheeler and Taylor
Wheeler
farm.
and Taylor.
They had a dairy business, and that's part of what I wanted. When I start these ideas of the shows, I want to do hopefully a whole bunch of pictures about the dairy industry and then the chicken industry.
Yes,
because
and
those two things are pretty much what New Hampshire was good for.
Right. And Stacy Cole. Sorry, I forgot about Stacy Cole too.
Yeah, and that goes back to eggs. I mean, I'm old enough so that I remember going to Stacy Cole's to get eggs.
Red Crow Farm.
Red Crow Farm.
Yep.
We'd go up there, we'd get the eggs from them, and milk. In my day, we got milk, even in the 70s, we still get milk from the Johnson Farm over in East Swansea. So.
Yep.
But that's raw milk.
Right.
For those who
Stonewall
don't
Farm,
know what raw milk
I don't know if
is,
Stonewall Farm is still doing raw milk, but when I worked at Stonewall Farm, we sold raw milk at the time. Yeah. But anyway, we're talking about Swanzey.
Right.
So I thought Wheeler and Taylor was in Keene.
Well, the dairy, the actual dairy was, but the Taylor farm, Stan Taylor, who I knew, and then you go to his dad, that's the Taylor farm, and that was on Route 32, right by the end of the runway. There was a barn across the street. The Taylor house is on the right as you go north on the hill. Across from that was where the barn was. I remember going to that barn. At that point, the dairy industry was gone from New Hampshire. But you talk to people like my dad's age, and why I have these Wheeler and Taylor bottles is because my dad worked for Wheeler and Taylor driving, and delivering milk.
He was a milkman?
Yes. I mean, you get to anybody that's born in the 26...
I remember a milkman.
In the 20s and the 30s, and probably their first job. Like, when you look at me, it's like my father worked for Wheeler and Taylor. My father-in-law worked for Mackenzie and Keene.
Another farm.
So,
yep.
It's just... And I know a bunch of people just down the street from me that also their father worked for Wheeler and Taylor. So I had to, these are actually stuff that my mother-in-law had. And I said, well, anything you got from Wheeler and Taylor, I'll take. So here's a quart, a pint of Wheeler and Taylor. And this one I had to have. This is this little...
That is so cute.
This little...
pint?
How is it? I almost want to say it's a half pint. I don't see it listed on there.
Yeah, I think it would be a half pint.
But
it's small.
this little nice
that's beautiful.
ribbed glass, those are chocolate milk.
Almost like Manning Hill. Manning Hill has like the best chocolate milk.
That's what was in that jar. So I had to have those because, hey, it's part of our history. And you go back to New England and I'll always go back to the old homestead. You know, what's the old homestead? Well, it's a play. Nah, but think about farms in old New England in the 1800s. You didn't go to the grocery store,
Right.
but you had a cow or two.
You grew what you needed, or you bartered, or
You pretty much were self-sufficient in every way, shape, and form.
Canning.
Those people that go to Sturbridge Village.
Oh, right.
That's what, about an 1850s New England village. Go to the farm there. I love going to the farm because talk to them about it. You find how many acres they have, and of that, some is devoted to fruit trees. I mean, you still go up into the old hills where the old farms were on the hills, and you'll find lilacs probably where the house was.
Yep.
You'll find an orchard. You'll find an apple tree or two. You'll find that still there.
Yeah. And they were what we call sustainable today. They really were sustainable. They had everything pretty much that they needed.
Now, this is something that I have on the wall at my house. I don't know if you guys can see.
They use those for ice fishing, right? They use those to pull the ice out? No, let's see. Oh, it's for maple syrup. It's for skimming the stuff off the maple syrup? No?
I suppose you might be able to do that, but those are actually cream skimmers. So that
I love cream.
You could skim the cream, the heavy cream, off the top of the milk buckets, and make your
own butter.
I didn't bring, and I could have taken a picture of it. I have a butter churn at home. I mean, these are.
Have you ever used it? Does it work?
I have never used it. It's an old wooden hand crank one.
Yeah.
It'd probably have to be soaked for a while to hold anything.
Right. Yeah.
But these are the things that were in all these old houses.
Yeah.
I mean, if you ever get to see, and I'll bring some pictures in sometime, I've got a few. Not an awful lot of pictures were taken of the old houses inside.
Right.
But when you see a kitchen, I do have one.
Oh.
The amount of little things that are there that.
Hoosiers?
Well, yes, but you also.
Wood stoves?
You'll see the wood stoves. Yeah, the picture I have has obviously it's in the winter.
Yeah.
Because the wood stove is sitting there with the oven door open. She's got his feet up on it. It's hey.
Yeah, it's heat.
You'd think today, oh, that's wasting heat. No.
No.
I
don't care how much wood you need. Yeah.
There was no other heat. So.
Right. Yeah.
But the wood stove, you used it all year long.
Right.
I mean, so.
Yeah.
But it's interesting to see that, and the old homestead brought that home too.
Right.
The realism of the interior of a New England kitchen. And they do it down there at Sturbridge Village still.
And also, it might be a little bit closer to now, but Canterbury Village over towards Concord. That's another one of my favorite places to go.
I have not been there yet.
Oh, it's beautiful. So. The kitchen that they have this circular thing that they used to put their breads on, and all the. I mean, I can't imagine. I've got one of their cookbooks, the Shaker cookbooks.
Yeah.
Incredible recipes. They used fat. Like stuff that, I mean, things that made you sustain, like you were able to go out in the field and work all day long, but you burned it off. So we have a bunch of pictures, Lee.
Yeah, well, let's get. I mean, I know what's coming up first.
Okay, let's see.
Unfortunately, it's an old picture of the barn.
The Bardwell Farm,
It's starting to get a little bit dilapidated.
Yep.
But the Bardwell Farm, right there on Route 10.
Yep, right next to where the Market Basket is now.
Pretty much most all of Swanzey's farms are pretty much gone.
Well, that's a huge barn. And what is it, 4 stories? And they would have hay all the way up into the top. Can you imagine the fire hazard of all that heat? Seriously. I don't know how you would be able to keep that much hay dry and not too dry. I mean, what did they do? They just loaded it up and, I don't know. And then it must be the milk house there.
You had to make sure you dried it before it went in.
Yeah.
Otherwise it was hot.
Yeah. But yeah, oh, Stacy Cole.
So then,
Yeah.
this picture here, we had to put Stacy Cole in, Red Crow Farm. Like I said, I told you, I remember going to his house to get eggs.
Well, let me tell you this. I went to his house and I interviewed him about a year before he passed.
Yeah.
So if anybody wants to watch any more of these programs, I do have a program of Stacy Cole that will be edited and out there shortly.
And Stacy was, big into New Hampshire agriculture. He
oh my
was
gosh,
president of the Farm Bureau.
He did
for a
so
time.
much. He even had a building named after him at UNH.
Yep, yeah. So very prominent.
He was also a deputy for my grandfather. Yes.
Yes, he was.
Yeah.
Now,
okay.
You remember that building?
This is the Holbrook.
No,
No.
this is Page.
Page.
This
This is
the
Page.
house.
Right.
Across the street from where the barn is.
Yep. It's just a field now, and it's right next to the Nanotech.
Right. Nanotech is actually owns the property now.
Yeah. And so Wilson Pond would be on, if you're looking at this, it would be on the left-hand side, a
on the
ways
left.
down.
Yep.
But yeah.
Yeah, and it's Mount Huggins behind it. There's an aerial view of the Page.
They had a
house and
lot
farm.
of property. Now, did they have to sell some of their property to the airport?
Yeah, they lost some of their property on the other side.
Because you can see the road there. That's Route
there's
32.
No airport. There's
no
airport there.
No, but look at how many fields they had. I mean, I'm sure that to feed. They had a huge barn.
Yeah, that's the huge barn that you still see today. You can see the road, which is Page Court, I believe, still in that.
Yeah.
They used to take their cattle, because they had land across Route 12. They take their cattle all the way up through.
Oh my gosh.
and
Well, it's
pasture them
not
out
all
there.
that far. It's probably a mile.
Yeah.
When you think about
Well,
it, because
Safford Drive. If you look
exactly,
at where it is.
it's Safford Drive. Yeah.
So,
And there's the building. Now,
There's
what
the
you'll
barn.
see now is they've added windows. I went there actually yesterday just to take a few views, and they've added a bunch of windows, but they still have quite a bit of the original style of the building.
Yeah.
There's just a lot of businesses in there now. It's beautiful. They've done a nice job landscaping, but
this is not the first barn that was there.
Right.
They had another barn there that burned, and this was.
yeah.
So this was like state of the art when this was built.
Yeah, and it really does look very nice still.
And here we are.
There's the milk trucks.
The milk trucks.
Yep.
I don't know if those are Divcos, but this looks like older than that.
Uh-huh. And chickens?
Now let's go to chickens and talk. This is the Carlton farm.
Where was the Carlton farm?
To me and anybody my age, you'd think of the McClures.
Oh, yes. Yep.
Off from Carlton Road.
Yeah, off 32.
Aldridge Road is actually the road it's on.
Yeah, on the way towards East Swanzey.
Yep.
Yep.
And there's Mark Carlton with a chicken on his knee. So this, I probably get the year wrong, but probably is somewhere 30s to maybe 40s. That's when chickens were really big. I mean, New Hampshire was one of the biggest producers of chickens and breeding chickens.
Yeah.
And if you don't believe that, think about Hubbard Farms in Walpole.
Exactly.
They are an international company now.
They're quiet, but they're still huge.
I mean, I didn't know that. In 1976, I went out to Iowa to school, and I saw somebody with a Hubbard Farm hat. It's like, how?
Yeah. Yeah.
But
well, again,
all over.
when you look back at Stacy Cole's place, we'll get to that picture in just a second, but when you look at Stacy Cole's place, he's had several of his chicken houses taken down.
Yeah.
I think there might be one remaining. But can you imagine when those were all full?
Yeah.
And there were more chicken places down the hill. And going more towards, if you're going towards Winchester, there was there was more places down there that had chickens.
Oh, it was my house. The barn that I have in the back, on 1/3 of it, up and down, were a chicken house.
Yeah.
They were all chicken houses.
Right.
So even the small guy got into it.
Right.
So.
Yeah. Well, eggs are something that pretty much anybody can do, and they're delicious and healthy.
It's a sign of the times.
Right.
Back in the 30s and 40s, we hadn't perfected the whole idea of transportation and refrigeration, all this other stuff. So locally produced goods was the way to go.
Yep.
I mean, we're getting a little bit back to that now with the CSAs and everything.
And buy local.
But it's got a ways to go.
It does.
To
But,
get
you know,
back to
there's a
that.
lot of people, if you talk to any of the places like Agway or Cheshire Horse or any of the places that are selling little chicks, people are getting back to having their own chick. And the eggs taste so good. I can understand why people wanted
Yeah.
local eggs and local milk. And, you know, when you can buy it right at your doorstep, it's great. Yeah.
So now we're going to go into the 1800s here,
Okay.
for sure. This is the Holbrook Farm up on Winch Hill Road. So the house way to the left is the brick house that you see right on the road. And those barns that you see right on the other side of the road, those are gone.
Yeah.
Everything else pretty much is gone in that. Stone walls, or nice high stone walls,
Yeah.
they're not high anymore.
No.
Time takes its toll.
And you know, just talking about stone walls,
Yeah.
what I didn't realize is I went to a talk that was given by an Antioch professor, and they were talking about the stone walls. So when people go into fields or places where there's been stone walls,
Yeah.
what you don't realize is that almost all of those trees were gone at one time.
Yeah.
And this is
Yes.
during the sheep craze in the 1850s or 1880s, around there. But they had to have their stone walls. Those weren't just built to get the stones out of the fields. Those were built to keep the sheep in.
the sheep,
And besides that, they had to have them 2 or 3 feet higher. So in many cases, they had sticks that would hold more wire that was on top of them, because you know what would happen if they didn't have if their sheep got out, they would get reprimanded in their church services, and they would be told that they would be fined, and they would be told that they had to fix it or something else would happen, or I mean, it was just unbelievable.
You go up to Carpenter Home and you'll see evidence of some steel
Yeah.
sticking out of
So
the top.
that's what those are. I had no idea. I had no idea. Okay, let's keep going.
So now this is Charles Holbrook Farm. This is on Hale Hill Road. Would have been the end of the road back in those days. So it's up at the top of the hill, and in another 3/4 of a mile you get to Route 32 again. So that's a beautiful view out to the south.
Yeah, Carpenter Home?
Here's the Carpenter Home. I chose this one because this
Shows all the barns.
Well, there is another barn off to your left that you don't see
Oh, right.
here.
Uh-huh.
That was there. I remember it being there, but they tore it down.
Mm-hmm.
But look at the little bell tower
Right.
up there.
Yeah.
They had a bell tower to ring the workers, hey, dinner
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
You know. So
Yeah.
that is the Dunham Farm. That's across the street from my house. The house is still
and that's
there.
still there.
That house is still there.
Yeah.
And this is amazing. As we go through these pictures, a lot of these pictures, you're going to see the farmers standing there with their horses.
Right.
Well, that's their tractor. They don't have tractors
Exactly.
back then. My family, the Dunham side of my family, moved to Swanzey. I'm going to say I never really traced it down to the exact date, but 1906. So that, the little girl is May, and I think she's born in 1912 or 10. So she's the only one that's born in New Hampshire. So
Well,
that
looking
dates
at that picture, isn't that funny? Because it looks like it's a long ways to that house.
Yeah,
So what is that road there?
They're actually probably standing in my driveway. probably,
Exactly.
right
Seriously, that's what I'm thinking. Because there's a road that goes through there. Because the house is not that far away from
But the road
road.
would be a path. I've seen pictures of the road way back, and it's like a path.
Yeah.
So
I wonder if any of those trees are still around.
those couple in the front, I may still be there.
Yeah.
There was a couple of maples in the front they used to tap for.
Yeah. And when you think about that also on that photograph, all of that land in back was probably their farm, and now is a neighborhood of houses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All
Very
the way,
flat.
All the way to the bridge.
Right.
They are.
Yep.
So.
Yeah.
This right here, this is the Perry Farm up on Winch Hill. We went back to Winch Hill again. This is probably the last house on the road. It's actually Taylor Hill back up there. Last house before you get to Richmond. So, but this has this across the street with a sawmill, and there's really a lot of history with this
Now,
place.
is that house still there?
That house is still there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Owned by the family still. Louis Kibler.
Wow.
Lives there. So.
Beautiful.
Now, this house is not there. This house burned in the 80s. This is the Bowles Farm. Now,
And
if
where
you
was that
don't know
located?
about the Bowles, it was actually the Thrashers when it burned. But she was a descendant of the Bowles. And that is, if you're familiar with, now it's Holbrook Ave and Swanzey Lake Road. That farm was right there by the brook. There's still a house there. The house that's there was a garage that they used to keep a Rolls Royce, if I remember right in. I mean, a long time after this.
Right.
But the Bowles farm. So
Yeah.
now we go to Westport. This is on Westport Village Road. This is the Faulkner farm. And we actually do this, at the museum, and we actually have names for pretty much everybody in that picture.
Excellent. And we
that's
do
cool.
have, the Faulkner family is still pretty prominent
Yes,
in Swansea too.
Yeah.
So yeah. Love the windows and the doors
So
and
here we
chimney.
have the horses teamed
Yep.
up, and
Yep. And
actually it's a hired hand that's got the.
that's what I was going to say. Because usually, and you wouldn't want him in the picture, gosh forbid.
So
Like this is the family.
Yeah, the family
Yeah.
is all off on one side, and the hired hand has the horses.
Right. Yep. Yeah. Do you have any other photographs? Or is that's it? Okay. So that's quite a good tour of Swansea, but I'll bet you there's more pictures out there that other people have of their family,
Yeah.
of their homesteads, that would be great to have at the museum in West Swansea.
Yes, yeah. Like I said, I've been asked. The worst one is East Swansea. For some reason, there's not a lot of pictures of the different locations in East Swansea. Locations of the mills. I don't know if we've really done a good show on mills before, but maybe we will if we haven't.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of pictures of mills and the mill workers.
Well,
but
again, think about
farms.
this. Who had the money?
Well,
Yeah,
the
it
mill.
probably wasn't not to down East Swansea, because they did have some money there,
Or
but it was a lot
Union.
of loggers,
Yeah.
a lot of your regular, everyday, hardworking person.
Well, also too, you look at what drove everything was how did you sell stuff? And for East Swansea, it was not impossible to get to the railroad. You had to
But it
go-
wasn't right there.
You had to drive your stuff up to Webb Depot.
Exactly.
But so you still had, you go over to West Swansea and a whole different story. You
Right.
had mills.
You've got the depot right there.
You had mills that had sidings right to them with the rail cars. so.
Right. Right. Yeah. So, like it still does, money talks.
Well,
the way it is.
it was where the rail could go.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, talking about railways just a little bit, that's why towns that became larger, because you've got Keene, Harrisville had a depot. There's a lot of depots that were around, but where you had a depot or where you had a loading dock, that's where you had a lot of business. Troy.
And that was good for us, and then it was also bad.
Right.
The railroads partially to blame for the loss of everybody too, because you talk about sheep. Sheep came into big way to get wool to the mills for them to do their thing. Well, when we could get wool from out west on a train.
We didn't need it anymore.
Yeah,
it's funny because the sheep farming, it was like you turned on a spigot and it just, and then all of a sudden dried up. Like it was done.
And
it's like the gold rush of sheep.
Right, and that's why a lot of that stuff was done on the hills too. And people, I'm sure you go hiking, you go hiking out in the woods and it's like you're out in the middle of nowhere.
Right.
There's a stone wall.
Yeah.
Why?
Right.
Why is there a stone wall?
Right.
But
you got to think, back in the later 1800s, middle to late, that's what they did. They had sheep. Again, they were sustainable. They had all of the things that they needed. They had a lot of times they had a pond so that they could have fish. Or back then, you talk to Mike Johnson, And Mike has told me, like, the river that goes through his property,
Yeah.
it used to be huge. I mean, it used to be a much larger river than it is now. Now it's just a little stream. But there used to, I think he said there used to be there used to be salmon in it, and that they would come upstream.
Probably was. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's amazing when you think back that people actually lived on their farms. They didn't go to the grocery store. And if they did go to a grocery store, it was for things that they just couldn't produce.
Yeah.
It was just such a different way of life. And I'm glad that people have gotten back to that. And even us as Swanzey residents, we can do what we can do by having a garden. We're not farmers, but we can have a garden. We can have chickens. We can have bees. We could have a cow. We could have pigs. It depends on where you live and how much property you have. But farming in Swanzey has a history, and I hope that it continues on. So.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, but it all winds back into the old homestead. Mm-hmm. It's like that's what people did,
right,
to survive.
Yeah.
And they had to put away for the winter root cellars.
Right.
I mean, my house has what we call.
Yeah, your house is a really interesting place because it's so typical of the time. So yeah. So today we've been, this is Swanzey Then and Now with Lee and Jody. If you have information that you'd like to share about old farms, about your history of your family, anything that you'd like to share, please feel free to get a hold of us somehow. You can go through the town of Swanzey, you can go through Cheshire TV. There's all kinds of ways to get a hold of us. If you see us in a store,
say hi.
We have a few minutes. We can chat, but we'd love to have more information. And also remember that there's the museum on Route 10. So today, again, Swanzey Then and Now. Please watch again and share your thoughts and messages with your family and friends, and keep Swanzey strong.